This is by Obsidian Ant, one of the best space sim YouTubers out there. So let's watch it.
Elite Dangerous, its days are numbered. The writing is on the wall. So, what alternative space games are out there for console players and PC players? Well, that's a question we're going to look at. But first, there's another question to answer. Is Elite Dangerous really a dead and dying game? Well, that will entirely depend upon where you sit. If you're a console player, then it's the end of days. No more future content for Elite.
Yeah, it recently got announced that the console development for Elite Dangerous is completely cancelled. No more development is happening.
Elite Dangerous, just critical patches and the servers remaining on. Effectively, this is what's known as maintenance mode. The PC version of the game, meanwhile, does have a future, at least if you've got the Odyssey client, which is going to continue to be receiving new content and new updates. At the end of the day, this is what is known as a shitty situation. For a big chunk of the player base, around about 20% based on public information who exclusively play on consoles, this is definitely not a good thing. Not good.
Whoa! Obsidian Ant with the potty mouth!
News whatsoever. Some PC players, meanwhile, are going to have some different feelings about this, as obviously their version of the game does have a future. So I know what some of you out there are going to be thinking, this is all hyperbole. It's Obsidian going on a rant, it's me just bandwagoning. It's Obsidian saying that he's dying again, ha ha.
Who are you and what have you done with Obsidian Ant?
Regardless of your take though, regardless of whether you think there's good to come of this or bad to come of this, ultimately Elite is not in a great place right now. So whilst some people will try and put a positive spin on everything and say everyone's happy, unfortunately that really isn't the case. There's a whole lot of people out there that just aren't very happy at all. And yes, this is just a YouTube poll, not scientifically accurate, gives some trends, but I know what many of you actually feel about these. Nonetheless,
it's all blurry.
It gives me at least some indication about what is going on with the thoughts and opinions within the Elite Dangerous community. And if you want a wider perspective of this, you need only look at other YouTube channels, as well as conversations across the internet. Let's take a look at this article on Eurogamer, for example. Not a flattering read towards Frontier by any means. Elite Dangerous cancels Odyssey expansion and all future content on consoles. Frontier Developments will no longer be releasing new content for its long-running space sim Elite Dangerous on Xbox and PlayStation, and development on the console version of its poorly received Odyssey expansion has ceased.
I think it's enlightening that Frontier, I think they're finally acknowledging that the Odyssey launch was bad. Like, I think they've gone full acknowledgement. Because it was like a little bit of, we had some issues, we had some bumps, we had some problems, we had a little bit of problems, we're working through these issues. I think now they're going, well, we kind of dropped the ball, full-blown blast on that.
The article briefly goes on to mention the situation with Odyssey and ultimately says, unfortunately for those that purchased it, the £30 expansion arrived in a shocking state when management opted to shove it out the door in May, plagued with performance issues, server outages, and a heap of bugs. Odyssey.
You know, there's still people out there that say that the Odyssey release wasn't that bad. They're still, to this day, they're still saying that the Odyssey release wasn't that bad. And I don't know how they can think that. I really don't. It was very, very, very challenging.
Rapidly
very bad.
A mostly negative rating on Steam, and Frontier responded by delaying the Xbox and PlayStation.
I remember people were asking me when I was live with it. They were like, "Bwana, how's Odyssey?" I'm like, "It's fun. It's definitely fun, but it runs like garbage." That was my review. I was like, "It runs terrible, but it's definitely fun."
PlayStation versions indefinitely in order to prioritize the core PC experience for Elite Dangerous. There's a bunch of similar articles out there from other websites. Unfortunately, the current situation with Elite does mean rehashing old ground. We'd all like to move on, but it seems that Frontier just won't allow us to do that. Yes, they have released 10 updates for Odyssey on PC, in an 11th one on the way this week. But their extremely poor management and development practices of the game, not to mention their terrible communications in recent months, really just keep bringing these negative situations to light again and again.
This is pretty seething coming from Obsidian Ant. He's... Wow.
There's some people out there that would prefer to focus only on the positive aspects of the game. Personally, I'm not one of them. I'm firmly a guy that likes to sit in the middle and look at the broad overall situations. And
me too.
That's the same reason you won't find me focusing exclusively on negative aspects as well.
Me
yes,
too.
shades of grey. Not 50 of them. It would be great if there was just 50 shades of grey with Frontier, but unfortunately it's many and many more. Equally, there's many different opinions out there on the overall situation, although for the most part, a lot of these seem to be slanted towards the negative. What you're seeing on screen right here is a YouTube poll. We all know what everyone thinks about those, far from scientific, but they do give a...
I want to know who these 5% are that are saying it's positive. That's what I want to know.
bit of a trend, at least in relation to general current thinking. But that said, quite rightly, opinions are always different out there. There's a whole wide range of them, something I don't usually do on this website, on this channel rather. Let's take a look at a few comments from my recent videos, and you know, I will keep the
It's Braben and his alts.
names out of it, but I think this is entirely fair to do, because these videos shouldn't just be about what I think and what I have to say. It's entirely worth taking a look at other people's opinions as well. It isn't only disappointment, but there is a level of deceit as well. It should be noted that this decision to abandon development on consoles was not made overnight.
No, it
this
wasn't.
decision has been known for months, perhaps as far as 6 or 7 months.
Having done assessments, going to companies and actually did some assessments on the development practices and project states and stuff like that for Fortune 500 companies, I don't think they knew for 6 or 7 months. Because here's the thing about these projects and these project managers, they know the project's in trouble, but they don't ever, I don't think they ever even consider the notion that it's beyond repair, right? I think they firmly believe that with enough time and enough resources that they can fix it and they can right the wrongs. It's just going to take a long time. And I don't think the decision to cancel was even known until very recently, because that's something that comes from the top. You can recommend to cancel, but you don't know that's going to happen for months. So I don't think I agree with that this was a purpose deception to not tell us that they were going to cancel and that they've known for months. I don't agree with that. I don't think they did know that it was going to be canceled. Oh yeah, they knew it was in bad shape. They knew the code base was in bad shape because they can barely optimize it on PC, and consoles are, you know, if you can barely optimize it on PC, then consoles are in trouble. I wouldn't go as far as to say that this was a purposely deceptive thing that they did.
I would even go as far as saying that I doubt FF devs have even been concerned or worried about Odyssey on consoles, even though they would say otherwise, simply because they already knew that consoles were to be rated obsolete. The brutally honest truth is that for the past year, Frontier have strung along console players.
That
These
I agree
console
with.
players were waiting in vain, waiting for Odyssey DLC, some even upgrading to Xbox Series X and the PS5, still dedicated to playing Elite Dangerous, still buying their merchandise, still buying the game as a whole, all while Frontier knew for months that they would be cutting off console players in the future.
I mean, you can't really, it's hard to say that with any definitive proof, like for real.
Where do we draw the line and say enough? So just to be clear,
Like, you can't say they knew they were going to cancel it for months. I don't think you can really say that.
yeah, this is of course someone's opinion. It's not based on fact, but based
Definitely
purely
not
on
based on
their
fact.
observations as they see it. And those observations, in part at least, will be based on Frontier's communication policy. So whether you agree or disagree with that particular comment, there's something to be said for Frontier themselves and their communications having an impact on the player's perception of what is going on with the game.
Right.
95% of games just chuck out the game and leave you to it. Elite Dangerous has worked to keep it going for years. Since I backed the Kickstarter, I paid the initial back-in, then the Xbox version, then the Horizons and Fleet Carrier update. For all I paid for it, I have had a fantastic experience, mainly on Xbox to be honest. I think Frontier should be given a break to work on the future of the game without being moaned at, lack of support, etc., when most people have only paid 40 or 50 quid.
Chat, in Twitch culture and other places, there's this meme going around It's called copium. And copium is a fictitious gas that you inhale to deal with the negative situation. And you go on to say that everything is going to be okay using these very, very weak arguments. And you basically stand up for a cause or a company with no backing at all. And you're actually just going on hope. And we also have a word called hopium. So you cope with the negative part of the game, and then you have this hopium that you huff as well that basically says, it's going to be okay. They're going to fix it. Based on nothing, basically. This is pure hopium. This is copium hopium right now. I don't know what I mean. There's being optimistic, and then there's being unrealistic. Optimism is healthy. Don't get me wrong. And I can definitely say that I've had a lot of positive memories with Elite Dangerous myself, right? But I think Frontier should be given a break to work on the future of the game without being moaned at. This is the problem with software development and video games, is that people are sitting here saying you should not complain. Now, there's ways to complain. There's ways to give feedback, but to say that they shouldn't be moaned at because they paid only 40 or 50 quid is actually being a little bit ignorant. I really think that's being a little bit ignorant. I don't really think you should take that tack, especially when you buy a product and you are actually encouraged by the developers to provide feedback. And if your feedback's negative, according to this comment, that you should stop. No. You should definitely give honest and constructive feedback. And a lot of times that's going to be moaning. That's going to be saying, hey, you did this before, Frontier. You did it before, Frontier. You did it before, Frontier. You did it before. And people have receipts where they did it before. And they're doing it again. So I don't think this is a good way to... I don't think this is a good take at all.
I will continue to play the game as long as I enjoy it. I do, so I will. Thanks to the community for the videos, but biggest thanks to David Braben and Frontier. I think there's something to be said for paying £30, £40, whatever, for a game and it giving you many, many years of quality entertainment. For people who purchased the game back during the Kickstarter, they would have got access perhaps in 2013, maybe 2014, depending on when how much they paid. So yeah, we're talking of 7 to 8 years of entertainment for the price of entry.
So here's another thing about that statement. It's like we've been receiving promises since the Kickstarter, since the inception of Elite Dangerous. It's been built on promises, a 10-year plan, a series of updates. We bought into a lifetime access pass that we're going to get a series of constant updates and expansion and building upon it, and ships and systems and all these things that were supposed to be, they were promised to be included. And what we've seen is that there's been an attempt. You give them a piece of cake and say, an attempt that's been made. There was an attempt, right? But they fell short. And I think we are well within our rights from a reasonable perspective. And no, we're not badgering devs or anything. We're from a constructive and reasonable perspective. We are well within our rights to say, hey, y'all dropped the ball. What's up with that? I really don't think that's unreasonable to take that attitude and just say, what happened to the thing? Because this is not the only time this has happened. And I want to make this point clear. This is not the only time that Frontier has promised something and not delivered it. Okay. So yeah, we get hundreds and thousands, in some cases, thousands of hours of enjoyment out of something that costs, 40 to 50 quid, as he said, $60 or whatever we pay for it. But that's no excuse to just let this slide. Most of us paid that money with the assumption that they were actually going to do what they said they were going to do. Because Elite Dangerous, in all intents and purposes, when it first came out, didn't have a whole lot. There wasn't a whole lot there. Now, quite a bit has been added, but they also promised a lot too. So people bought into the game knowing that they were going to get more. When they didn't get more, it's time to say what happened.
So yeah, I can relate to that comment. I think it also kind of backs up my earlier observation about Frontier's communication policy. As the commenter says, I think Frontier should be given a break to work on future of the game without being moaned at for a lack of support, etc. So yeah, fair observation, but it really wouldn't happen. People would complain far less if Frontier had a bit more of an open book when it comes to communications.
That's a great point. I actually saw a change in philosophy at Frontier, and I pointed this out. I think I did in the video, I'm not sure. But where they were really doing a good job of increasing communications, and it was actually leading up to Odyssey, where they had these dev talks and they had all these different things. And they were talking with me and other content creators about what's coming in Odyssey, and they got us excited. We got you guys excited. We got hyped up for it. So there was a big communication dump. And even after the launch, there was a lot of communication. Here's where we are. Here's where we're trying to do updates. There was a lot of communication. And then it stopped. Right? So they had a big spurt of communication, and then they just went radio silent. And it's not the first time that's happened either. And I think this commenter needs to think back to history, where the times where Frontier, they're very, very vocal and very, very loud when something's being sold and something's being advertised and something's being hyped up. But when everything goes bad, they get quiet. I mean, that's a cause for concern, man. That you can't ignore that.
There. Yes, we've got a new forum post from Frontier, which I touched on just earlier, and we'll have a closer look at in just a bit. But ultimately, these ongoing regular blackouts of information aren't doing anyone any favours at all, least of all Frontier. Now, if you want a bit more of a deep dive into the current situation with Elite Dangerous, I can recommend 2 different videos. We've got this one here from Commander Exorcist. It's a 20-minute discussion on where Elite Dangerous is, where it's been, where it's heading, as well as Commander Exorcist's take on the whole thing. There's also a 1-hour podcast here with Space Tomato, who's having a discussion with Down to Earth Astronomy. Both fantastic guys, well worth a listen to this one. So, both videos have very good insight on what's going on with Elite. People's takes are very balanced, so I really do recommend you go and check them out. Both links will be found in the video description below. So, what's new with Elite Dangerous? Well, as I'm recording this video, Frontier community team have posted a new update to the official forum. So, let's take a very quick look. Not too much there in the way of future content for Elite Dangerous other than Update 11, but nonetheless it bears taking a bit of a look at. And do keep in mind that this is the first community post of any substance that has been posted this year. What have we got then?
It's March, by the way. The first community post of any substance that's been posted this year is March. So when we say they've been silent, we're not making that up.
Confirming that Odyssey Update 11 is on schedule for this week. That's after being delayed a little bit from last week. They still don't give an exact day, but they're saying they're planning on rolling out the update early this week. They're just undertaking those final checks again. So this update will bring fleet carrier interiors to the game. So for those players who have access to fleet carriers, it means they're about to haul around their home base. That's pretty much anywhere across the entire galaxy. Frontier also mentioned that there's going to be a new type of mission within the Update 11 alongside another wave of fixes. After that, Frontier move on to discussions of the new streams, their live streams. They're going to return. These have been relaxed. These have basically disappeared for the entirety of this year.
Yeah.
They're going to bring them back, a single live stream, 1 per week at the time of 1600 UTC every Thursday. So it's going to be less streams, but they're going to be longer. Frontier also touch on the upcoming community event calendar. This will effectively allow players to announce publicly their in-game communities and community events to essentially promote them. A few other little bits and pieces there as well, so the full post is linked in the video description if you want to go and check it out all for yourself. I don't think you need me to read each of those out for you. Finally then, before we come to an end of this video, I opened the video with discussing alternative space games, and I know some of you out there are certainly going to want to be thinking about that. Now, unfortunately, the downside, the sad news about all of this is there's not a huge amount in the way of games similar to Elite Dangerous, especially not on consoles. If you're on PC and looking for alternatives, there is Star Citizen. I know people out there are not going to appreciate me recommending that, but it is a game, it is playable, regardless of its state. Maybe it crashes a lot, well, we know it crashes a lot, there's a lot of bugs, but you can go out there and play it, and when it comes down to it, it's perhaps the closest thing out there to Elite Dangerous right now.
Yep,
the next
it is the closest
obvious recommendation is No Man's Sky, and I'm pretty sure most people would have at least considered taking a look at that. But yeah, Hello Games have done a fantastic job with this over the recent years. I really do have a lot of respect for them with the massive amount of work and change that they put into No Man's Sky over the past few years.
Yeah.
Now, if you're looking elsewhere, you're going to have a bit of an easier time if you're on Xbox than if you're on a PlayStation. Xbox does have access to Space Engineers. Now, this is a really popular sandbox building type space game. Build your own spaceships, build your own stations, you've got access to planetary surfaces and all sorts of things. Pretty popular game, in fact they've sold over 4 million copies at this point. It's not a game I play myself unfortunately, but that's not because I don't want to, it's simply due to a lack of time. In fact, I'm regularly getting recommended this one, especially by Old Duck, who keeps telling me to play this over and over, and hopefully at one point I'll get round to.
We put a lot of time in this community with Space Engineers. We've run like 2 or 3 servers with it and seen it in multiple stages during its development life cycle. I'm curious how far it's come since then.
Getting back into it. I did play this many years ago, actually. Either way, if you're on Xbox or if you're on PC, don't think it's on PlayStation, but yeah, it's certainly worth taking a look at. Meanwhile, if you want a slightly older space game, you can take a look at Everspace. This is a quality roguelike shooter. This is available on both PC and consoles. If you want something a bit more open world, perhaps one of the best space shooters out there is Everspace 2. This is still in early development, but it is available on PC. In fact,
surprisingly, mentioned X4.
All the other games I've recommended so far,
even though it's more
good.
of a
hopefully
management game than
it will be coming
is.
to consoles at some point after the final release. So, yeah, keep your eye out for that. So that's my recommendations out the way. What I'd really like to know is for those of you on console or perhaps PC who are now moving away from Elite Dangerous, what game are you choosing to play? Are there any other space games out there that you're taking a look at? Alternatively, are you perhaps moving towards a simulation such as Microsoft Flight Simulator or DCS World, or perhaps another total different branch of game, a different genre altogether? I'm going to pin a comment down below, so do take a look where you can answer this particular question. I'd love to hear from you. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.
Alright, great video from Obsidian Ant. And he gave good examples of comments of people talking about the extreme negative and extreme positive, because there was one guy saying that they knew that the console version was going to be delayed, but for months, but they tried to deceive us. And then you got the other guy basically saying we really shouldn't be nagging or moaning at them for supporting the game when we only pay 40 or 50 quid. And it's just two extremes that I don't agree with either, right? But Frontier, they have really done a good job of upsetting their console base, and that's putting it lightly. And I'm kind of surprised there's no migration plan. I'm actually very surprised. I was expecting something along the lines of, hey, you want to migrate to PC? Do so by, I don't know, November, end of this year or whatever. We'll give you this amount of time to migrate your save from Xbox to PC if you want to play Odyssey. I haven't seen anything like that. There's nothing like that out there. And it's shocking that there isn't. Because you've announced the game and then you're just going to straight up cancel it. And then you're just going to leave them hanging. And those people that upgrade to PS5s and Xbox Series X's so that they can play this game in 4K and be, you know, and do all these things that they want to do, and all the things the PC gamers were doing, and Odyssey with you know, on foot stuff and all the exploration additions and stuff that Odyssey added. And no, they're not going to do any of that. And it's shocking that there's no migration path. I'm kind of still, I'm so shocked that I'm still kind of expecting one to be announced, because it seems kind of insane that there isn't anything. But as I stated in my initial video, and I want to leave with this point, when I did my hot take on it, when I first heard about the console announcement, overall, this is the best thing that the game could have. Right? If you're a project manager, or you're somebody who's worked in software dev, you know that narrowing your focus gives you the best opportunity to stabilize. So by not including console, this gives their developers a little bit more, I don't know, I guess it's making the bullseye a little bit easier to hit than it was before. And as a studio, they're also looking at other titles. You know, they got the Jurassic World stuff, they got Planet Coaster, and they just took on F1, and they got the Warhammer title. So they're kind of spread a little thin. The best thing for Elite Dangerous is to narrow the focus and narrow the scope. Because I don't think they can hire their way out of this. I don't think they can scale up. I don't think they can scale their way out of this. So if you're concerned about the future of Elite Dangerous and the best possible outcome for it, you will look at this as a good thing. Because if they kept the console version, I'm telling you right now, if they would have kept the console version and they were still trying to optimize it on top of the PC version, this game would never, I think the chances of failure will be much higher than what they are now. I'm not going to say it was guaranteed to fail, but the chances of failure of this game are much, much higher, because they've come out with 10 updates over the span of almost a year just to stabilize something that was supposed to be stable at launch. And then they got to turn around and optimize that for the console and then get that in a reasonable amount of time. Yeah. By the time they do that, Star Citizen will be out. This is one from One.tv. Check out Obsidian Ant's video. It's a great video. Not a good time to be a Elite Dangerous hardcore fan, I can tell you, man. It's hard to defend stuff like this. But I've been playing it. I've been playing more of Elite Dangerous, but I've been doing nothing but trading. I went back to my first love with the game. I've just been bouncing my fleet carrier around and making credits, just chilling. And it's been relaxing. I played, you know, 15, 20 minute, 30 minute spurts here and there. It's been relaxing. But I can't deny the game's it's in shambles and has a lot of problems. A lot of problems. Take care, guys. See you next time.